Ya, mulai.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Before we start our class, let's salah.
Nggak apa-apa, lanjut ya. Ulang.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our class. First of all, allow us to introduce ourselves. My name is Khaira Auliani, and my friend is
Pangestu Muhammad.
Right. Before we start our class, let's pray first. Mr. Pangestu will lead the prayer.
All right, thank you, Miss Haira. Before we start our material, it is more good if we start it with a prayer first. So, without further ado, before we start our material of our online class learning, let's pray together. Pray begins. Pray ends. All right, Miss Haira, you may continue.
Thank you, Mr. Pangestu. All right, so for today's materials is narrative text. There is 4 content that we will discuss. First, what is narrative text? Second, the purpose of narrative text. Third, generic structure of narrative text. And the last, the example of narrative text. All right. Next, I will explain about narrative text. What is narrative text? Narrative text is a story with complication or problematic events, and it tries to find the resolution to solve the problems. An important part of narrative text is the narrative mode, the set of methods used to communicate the narrative through a process narration. And next is the purpose of narrative text. So the purpose of narrative text is to amuse or to entertain the reader with a story. And next is generic structure of narrative text. First is orientation. What is orientation? Orientation is set the scene where and when the story happened and introduce the participant of the story, who and what is involved in the story. And all right, for the next is Mr. Pangestu will continue the explanation.
All right, thank you, Miss Haira. All right, so I will continue Miss Haira explanation about generic structure. As you can see, if you open slide 7, the complication is the second generic structure. Complication is a beginning of the problem, which leads to the crisis climax of the main participants. The third resolution is the problem or the crisis is resolved either in a happy ending or in a sad, tragic ending. And the last but not least is the reorientation or coda. Reorientation is a closing remark to the story and it is optional. It consists of a moral lesson, advice, or teaching from the writer. So there is 4 general structure of narrative text. There is orientation, complication, resolution, and reorientation. Isn't that right, Haira?
Yes.
All right, so next is the example. So I will screen share my example of the narrative text, and you can see it on the PPT that we share in your classroom. All right. This is the example that I am talking about. Is it shown in your screen, Haira, the presentation?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, okay. Wait. All right, so I will read the example, after I read the example of the narrative text, I want you guys to read it for us, the example, and we will correct the pronunciation, the speaking, and the grammatical error. Right, Miss Hayra? All right. So I will read the example. Fox and a cat. One day, a cat and a fox were having a conversation. The fox, who was considered creator, boasted how clever she was. Why, I know at least 100 tricks to get away from our mutual enemies, the dogs, she said. I know only one trick to get away from ducks, said the cat. You should teach me some of yours, said the cat. Well, maybe someday when I have the time, I may teach you a few of the simpler ones, replied the fox airily. Just then they heard the barking of a pack of dogs in the distance. The barking grew louder and louder. The ducks were coming in their direction. At once, the cat ran to the nearest tree and climbed into branches. Well, out of reach of any dog, this is the trick I told you about, the only one I know, said the cat. Which one of your 100 tricks that you will going to use? The fox sat silently under the tree, wondering which tricks she should use before she could make up her mind. The dogs arrived. They fell upon the fox and tore her to pieces. The moral of the story was a single plan that works is better than 100 doubtful plans. All right, I finished reading my example and I would like you guys to read it again for us and we will try to correct it. All right, so who's want to read it first? All right, Asep, you want to read it for us? Okay, you may go ahead, Asep. All right, finish, Asep. Okay, so you're speaking, there is some pronunciation that is wrong. Right, Mrs. Haira?
Yeah.
Like the word concerted, you said it concerted. It should have been concerted. And the word simpler, you said simpler, but the real one is simpler. Is there any more advice, Miss Haira?
Oh, we really appreciate that, Asep. But you still learn.
Yeah, you still learn, so it's okay to make a mistake. All right, so thank you, Asep. Next one is
I think Jamila.
oh Jamila. Jamila, you may read the text. All right. Oh, yeah. Yes, Jamila, the fox and a cat. You read it. All right. Yeah. Go ahead. Wow, that's good. Perfect. Superb. Excellent. You finish, Jamila. All right. So, Haira, you want to go first?
Uh,
Okay. So, Jamila, your speaking is incredibly amazing. There is no wrong pronunciation. What, yeah? No grammatical error. Everything is incredible. No errors.
yes.
Yeah.
You're right, Mr. Pangestu. Jamila, your pronunciation is really good. Just keep it up. You are good.
Yeah, you're good. You're in a good path. Keep studying. You just read it like me. You're amazing. All right. I think that is everyone that have been reading the text. Yes. So I think that is all for today's material. We will go on to the next material when we have the time. I'm Pangestu Muhammad, and beside me is.
I'm Khairaliani.
Until next time, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.